They said even the richest heart cannot buy one extra breath. They said even the best doctors can fail when the soul begins to slip away. And they were right, because in the center of a bright hospital room, a young CEO who had built an empire with her brilliance lay dying, surrounded by machines and specialists who had given up hope. And yet, in that same room, a man no one expected stepped forward, and not a doctor, not a scientist, not a billionaire, a single dad, a veteran of wars no one wanted to remember, came forward. He didn't bring syringes or miracles of science. He brought something far more powerful, something that medicine had forgotten but life itself was built upon: love. By the end of this story, when you return to this very moment, you will understand why the strongest CEOs, the most brilliant surgeons, and the wealthiest investors all wept as one soldier's heart pulled back a soul that was already fading. Her name was Isabella Grant. At 35, she was the Iron Lady of the corporate world. She had taken her father's failing business and turned it into a billion-dollar empire that reached across continents. To the public she was untouchably confident, sharp, always in control. But behind that image, Isabella carried the scars of relentless battles, sleepless nights, and betrayals that money couldn't shield her from. And then came the day her body collapsed under the weight of it all. It began with the sharp pain in her chest during a shareholders' meeting. Within hours, she was in the hospital, machines keeping her alive, and doctors whispering that her chances were slipping away. The news spread like wildfire. Employees cried, investors panicked, competitors celebrated quietly. The boardroom that once trembled under her voice now echoed with uncertainty. Friends, if they could be called that, showed up with hollow sympathy. Specialists from around the world flew in, offering treatments, surgeries, experimental drugs. But as the days passed, Isabella grew weaker. Her body was giving up, and though her empire still stood, its queen was fading. In another part of the city, life looked very different. Ethan Walker, a single father and veteran, was busy preparing breakfast for his 10-year-old daughter, Lily. His mornings were simply scrambled eggs, laughter over silly jokes, a quick walk to school. But behind his smile, Ethan carried invisible wounds. He had seen war strip men of their souls, he had lost comrades who never came home, and he had returned to a society that barely noticed his sacrifice. Work was scarce, bills piled up, and raising Lily alone was both his greatest joy and his hardest struggle. But she was his reason for living. It was Lily who first saw the news on television. "Daddy," she said, pointing at the screen, "that lady looks so sad. Everyone's saying she might die." Ethan glanced up, recognizing Isabella Grant's face. He had read about her in the papers. She was the kind of person who lived in a world far from his own. Yet there was something in Lily's voice, a kind of innocent urgency, that made him pause. "She's very rich, sweetheart," Ethan said softly. "She has all the best doctors in the world. If anyone can save her, they will." But Lily shook her head. "No, Daddy. Look at her eyes. She looks lonely." "Maybe what she needs isn't doctors. Maybe she needs someone who cares." Ethan laughed at her innocence, but that night, long after Lily had fallen asleep, those words echoed in his mind. "She looks lonely. Maybe she needs someone who cares." He couldn't shake it. He thought of the battlefield, of moments when wounded men held on not because of medicine, but because someone whispered, "Stay with me." "You're not alone." He thought of his own wife, who had died years earlier, and how her last moments weren't eased by doctors, but by his hand and hers. Could it be that even someone as powerful as Isabella Grant needed the same? Days passed, and Isabella's condition worsened. Media headlines grew darker. CEO on the brink of death. Doctors baffled as Grant's health declines. Crowds gathered outside the hospital, some praying, some just watching. Inside, her board discussed succession plans, already treating her as a memory. Isabella, trapped between life and death, heard pieces of it. In her drifting consciousness, she felt abandoned, surrounded by people, yet utterly alone. And then fate intervened. Ethan had come to the hospital that day, not for Isabella, but for a fellow veteran who was recovering from surgery. As he walked past a group of reporters, he overheard one of them sneer, "All the money in the world and she's still dying. Guess love doesn't matter in boardrooms." Something about those words struck him like a bullet. Love doesn't matter in boardrooms, a broken bar, but it matters everywhere else. Without fully knowing why, Ethan found himself drawn to the wing where Isabella was being treated. He expected to be stopped, but a mix of chaos, distraction, and perhaps destiny cleared his path. Soon he was standing by her room, looking through the glass. She was pale, frail, wires attached to her body,